hello, and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use at 5, Nursing Business and News. I'm Tina Baxter, and thanks for being here today. Hello to those of you that are on the Nurse Shark Academy page and those of you that are on our Baxter Professional Services page. Today is May the 10th, 2023, and we're just going to get right into it. Oh, and hello also to those of you that are watching us on YouTube. Thanks for watching us on our YouTube channel as well. So let's get started with our affirmations for today. Today is May the 10th. Our first affirmation: be patient. The best things happen unexpectedly. Be patient. The best things happen unexpectedly. Number 2, never put your time into the hands of the ungrateful. Never put your time into the hands of the ungrateful. Isn't that the truth? All right. And number 3, striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest where you haven't planted. Striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest where you haven't planted. Those are our affirmations from today. That's coming from the Inspirational Daily Calendar by Lauren Dratch. Okay. So we're going to skip over the what I am reading and the leadership moment today because we have our challenge going on today, starting today for the next couple of days, kicking off. And so we will be having our challenge, the Nurses for the Kingdom Challenge. I encourage you to tune in for that at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm excited about that is about to happen. So we're going to save all our energy for that when we talk about our leadership moment. But I did want to also say before we get into the news that great things are happening at the Nurse Shark Academy. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up to become a member of the Nurse Shark Academy, now's a great time to do it because we're going to be kicking off some wonderful things for the spring and summer and getting you ready to launch your nurse business. So look for the information coming out to you soon. All right, let's get on with our news. First story is up. This is coming out of San Diego. This is a San Diego nurses rally at state capitol. More than 500 nurses rallied to the California State Capitol Tuesday, urging it to save the nursing industry. Some of the nurses include San Diegans who are urging lawmakers to pass 3 bills from the lawmakers. The nurse Megan Davidson said, we're doing this mostly for our patients. It's also for us and safe patient ratios, but it's so the patients can get the proper care they deserve. The 3 bills include staffing law enforcement to enforce nurse staffing ratios at hospitals, investing $500 million in community college nursing programs, and helping students get clinical placements to graduate. Here. I'm pretty sure it's like it is in other places in the country. It's very hard for students to get clinical placement to finish their training, and that's been a big problem. And so anything that would help. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in California. It says right now nurses are paying $150,000 a year for the program to become nurses. She says this is from ICU nurse Laura Tibian. She says this is ridiculous. That dissuades nurses from going into profession. And it has gone up. The price tag to become a nurse has gone up. These programs are more expensive. And so we're starting to see some of that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that we'll have a shortage of about 200,000 nurses by 2025, a shortage that is forcing many nurses to take on more patients than they can handle. And that is something that we've been seeing throughout the pandemic. So this story came out from, I believe it was News 5 and out of San Diego. Let's move on to our next story. This is a follow-up from the story that we reported on last week, and this is about the St. Louis Circuit Attorney, Kim Gardner, who is under scrutiny because she was attending nursing classes, allegedly, to get her her graduate degree. So it says St. Louis Circuit Attorney wants to block AG's probe into nursing class schedule. This is coming out of St. Louis. So, St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner is asking a judge to quash the subpoena the Missouri Attorney General's office sent to St. Louis University School of Nursing to find out how much time she's devoting to her degree rather than her office. Gardner's legal team is also asking the newly appointed judge overseeing Attorney General Andrew Bailey's lawsuit to oust her from office to quash all of the documents the previous judge has ordered her to produce, according to court filings submitted Tuesday. So it looks like they've got a new judge in the case, and I'm not exactly sure why this switched judges. Judge Thomas Chapman has scheduled his first hearing on the matter for Tuesday, May the 16th. All the motions and filings are part of Bailey's lawsuit to remove Gardner from office immediately. He filed it in February, accusing Gardner of, quote, willfully neglecting her duties as the city's top prosecutor. The Attorney General's office then filed subpoenas for Gardner's academic records at St. Louis University School of Nursing, accusing her of taking classes there instead of carrying out the duty for which she was elected. Gardner's spokesperson, Allison Hawk, acknowledges in a statement that Gardner is attending classes there, but denied it interferes with her official duties. I don't know. I'm kind of two thoughts about this, and please let me know. Any attorneys out there, prosecutors, let me know about this. But she's taking nursing classes on her own time, and so are you saying that her time should be devoted 24/7 to taking care of what's going on, her job? And that raises bigger questions then, because on the one hand, she is a public servant, she is working for the government. People would expect their trials to be speedy, and if the prosecutor is taking class and can't have the trial, that becomes an issue perhaps. But on the other hand, if she's doing this outside of her normal work hours when the courts are closed, does she not deserve to have a life? I just don't know. So I'm of two thoughts about this, and so anybody has any insight into this. But I wanted to go on to read a little bit more about this. So it says the original judge assigned to Bailey's lawsuit, John Turbitsky, ruled there is enough evidence for the case to proceed to trial and gave Gardner 30 days to produce almost all of the discovery the Attorney General's office is seeking. He entered that order on May 2nd, which puts the deadline for discovery at June 1st, the day Gardner says she plans to resign. Gardner's lawyers are likely to file a motion to dismiss the case upon Gardner's resignation, but Bailey has vowed to continue pursuing evidence against Gardner until that happens. Gardner doesn't appear to be backing down either. Her team also filed subpoenas Monday with Bailey and former Assistant Circuit Attorney Natalie Ogerkowitz for any communications they may have had since January 1st. Ogerkowitz has been critical and outspoken about her resignation from Gardner's office, calling it, quote, a toxic work environment in which Gardner made it extremely difficult for prosecutors to function. So again, this is on Channel 5 out of Missouri, just to let you know some of this reporting. And the reason why I bring this up is because she's a nurse elected to an office and is getting a higher degree in nursing. And so there's I don't know, there just seems to be this negativity towards nurses recently that I can't quite put my finger on where it's coming from. But there's been a definite clash I've seen between legal things, the legal system, and nursing recently. Which brings me back to this case. I'm pretty sure you all are familiar with, and we have covered the case of Redonda Vaught. And quite interesting enough, I was at the American Association of Legal Nurse Consulting a conference last week, and she was a speaker there. And this is coming out of Nashville. But the way they preface the story really kind of gets to me, because it says, and I want to make sure I get this right, former nurse convicted of killing a patient in 2017 asked judge to reinstate nursing license. Now, how inflammatory Ms. Young, is this how you put this? So if someone didn't know her story and they just read this article, they would think she's probably the worst person in the world and she was trying to kill people. But that's not what happened. And having personally heard her story and understanding what had happened and how she got caught up in the legal system because of this, it's even more infuriating because you're writing this article, and I know it's to get clicks, and it certainly worked. I got a click, but it's just the way it's put. It's put it in here. But anyway, so Radonna Vault is back in the news as she is asking the judge to reinstate her nursing license. She's asking to have her nursing license reinstated until a judicial review after it was revoked. Vaught was a nurse at Vanderbilt, and as we know, and was convicted of killing a patient, Charlene Murphy, in 2017 by giving her the wrong medicine. She was then sentenced last year to 3 years of supervised probation, which came with losing her license. Under Tennessee law, as long as she follows the rules of her probation, her conviction could one day be dismissed. Nurses and healthcare professionals across the country expressed outrage over the case, saying a conviction and possible jail time for a mistake made on the job was unfair. During the trial, Vaught says she will never be the same person and that when Murphy died, part of her died with her. She said she had replayed this in her mind several times, and so there's more to go on. As of right now, it says it's not clear when the judge will make a decision on her license, but I want to say this because I think this is what people don't know or hadn't heard, was that initially when this all came out, she went before the Board of Nursing. The Board of Nursing understood it was a mistake. They told her to do some re-education, that kind of thing. But they let her work. They let her keep her license. She was working and doing well, taking care of patients until this prosecutor trying to go after Vanderbilt discovered her role in this and decided to go after her. And that's when the dominoes fell. So she was working as a nurse. She made a mistake. She got a job somewhere else. She was working as a nurse and was doing well and was well liked where she was working. And then all this happened, and then they've taken her license. And so she's asking for a reinstatement for her license, which I think is very reasonable. Very reasonable. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this. Okay. So let's go into this story about this nurse because I found this quite interesting. And it gets this from Channel 6, a local news station, coming out of, I believe this is Virginia, Colonial Heights, Virginia. And it says, she quit her job after a nursing home patient attack. It's a broken system. Cassie Ortiz gets emotional when talking about the patient she grew close with while she worked at a nursing home. She says when she was at the hospital, her last words to her son was, "Tell Cassie I love her," and then she passed away. Ortiz loved her job so much, she was finishing up her MBA to become a nursing home administrator before a situation prompted a change of heart. She says, "It's hard for me to leave something I absolutely love. I will never pursue it at this point." Her decision came after a frightening attack inside Colonial Heights Rehabilitation and Nursing Center, where she worked as director of social work. She says this incident, according to CBS 6, says this incident caused you not to become an administrator. And she says, yes, correct, because nothing was done for me. And this is where we've talked about this before, and this is why I'm bringing this story up. On September 13, 2022, Ortiz was called to help with a patient who was yelling at other residents. While trying to calm him, she said he exposed himself and tried to sexually assault her. He also asked her to perform oral sex on her, and he wouldn't let her go. She said she was very scared. She said the patient also kicked and punched her. She said, "I would have loved to have done something, but I couldn't. My hands were tied because we're not allowed to touch the patients." Of which the reporter asked, "You're not allowed to fight back?" She says, "No, we're not allowed to touch the patients at all, even if they assault us." Ortiz said another social worker finally helped her escape. Once free, she took out an emergency custody order. An ECO allows law enforcement to apprehend a person experiencing a mental health crisis and transport them to the hospital for treatment. He was taken to the hospital, evaluated, and sent right back because he was no longer acting out. No, she said no one asked if she was okay. No one asked if she needed counseling. No one gave me time off. It was awful. Okay, you just got to go back to work the next day. And I bring that up because nurses experience this every day. Every day. And I myself have been attacked by patients. I've been punched in the face by a patient because I don't know why. I've been kicked in the stomach across and sent across the room by a patient. I've had patients grab my bottom. I have patients grab my chest. These are things that nurses experience every day. And oftentimes they're just swept under the rug. So my heart goes out to Ortiz, and I understand what she's saying. And she's a social worker, so she doesn't have that intimate care contact that we often do as nurses, where you have to be right there with them. So she's saying that at Colonial Heights Rehabilitation Nursing Center provides short-term rehab and long-term care. She said when she was there, more than 20 psych patients lived on site. She says our job is not to manage psych patients. We are not equipped to do that. CBS 6 submitted a public records request to police for 911 calls from the facility over the past year. Those records revealed 18 assault calls to police, 2 abuse calls, and 4 sex offense calls. She said, Ortiz says there's no accountability. Police can't do anything. Administrators can't do anything. We can't defend ourselves. Ortiz said the facility accepts patients with behavioral issues because its owners, Innovative Healthcare Management, wants to ensure as many beds are as full as possible. So again, there are issues, and I certainly know that people with psychiatric illness, you know that I'm a psychiatric nurse, they do need proper care. But it also goes back to the fact that oftentimes these long-term care facilities in wanting to keep the beds full may take inappropriate admissions, and I have witnessed that firsthand. And we need to have a better culture of safety for nurses and healthcare workers in the inpatient setting, but also in outpatient settings and ancillary settings such as mental health clinics, nursing homes, doctors' offices. We need to do a better job. We need to do a better job of protecting our workers and not just saying, oh, well, it's just part of the job. Because it shouldn't be. And here's another thing that shouldn't happen. We're going to keep our news as short as we can. But this one came up, and this goes into the fact that there are lax security measures in long-term care. We've talked about this before. We need to think about this. There are in the hospitals now, you often have to go through metal detectors. But in a nursing home, because it's their home, and I understand you want to keep a home-like environment, but you also want to protect the residents and the staff. So there has to be, catch-22. I find it interesting how it's harder for you to get into an apartment complex sometimes. You have to be buzzed in by someone than it is for you to be able to go to get into a nursing home. You just walk in the door a lot of times. So what it says reporter intruder inside nursing home for hours before staff found him in a resident's bed. Yep, you heard that right. So I'm going to say trigger warning for this story from KGAN. There's a trigger warning for anyone. This does have some graphic details. Okay. So this facility, Crestview Specialty Care in, I believe, Michigan, it says the state reports highlighted state staff's failure to respond or protect patients from a 54-year-old Michael Beaver of West Branch. The patient Beaver was found with was crying at the time but didn't have any signs of being assaulted and reportedly didn't remember the incident afterwards. According to state inspection report, staff acknowledged Beaver in the unlocked building a few times but didn't mitigate the risk to residents until it was too late. According to court records, Beaver was charged with indecent exposure at the Iowa City Public Library 2 days prior. This is in Iowa, not Michigan. I apologize. 2 days prior to the April 5th incident at Crestview. Beaver also made headlines last summer for animal neglect after his dog was found tied to an Iowa City footbridge during dangerously hot weather and had to be put down. Beaver, who was homeless at the time, was sentenced to 8 days, already served in jail. Meanwhile, the state fines against the nursing home have been suspended after the home breached of its security procedures, including locking the doors, placing a visitor sign-in book, education of staff on interventions, education of staff on how to handle visitors the staff do not recognize, educating the residents and their families on a new process which require visitors to sign in when they visit a resident. So this is what happened according to the state investigation. At 10:30 a.m., a certified nursing assistant, a CNA, noted a male visitor in the facility walking around appearing to look for someone. At 11:10, CNA approached the male by the lunchroom where he asked where a resident's room was. CNA told him where her room was, and he said, "Thank you." Then 45, another resident informed the male that the male was her brother, and he had just gotten off work. 12 noon, CNA noticed the resident at her lunch table, and the male was not with her. 12:30 to 12:45, CNA noted male entering the facility again and observed walking up the East Hall. CNA pointed him to the West Hall. 1 o'clock and after, male noted pushing resident in her wheelchair throughout the facility, also seen standing next to the resident in her wheelchair in the common area. At 2:50 p.m., CNAs found male in resident's bed without clothing on, immediately got the director of nursing, and when entered the room, resident with head at foot of bed, still with clothing on and jumpsuit unzipped halfway back in the back. Staff immediately got male out of the resident's bed and escorted to the front lobby where they called the police. The male stated he was a distant cousin of the resident. Police arrived and detained the male. Facility was later notified he was admitted to the psychiatric unit at a local hospital. Assessment of resident completed, no issues noted, no signs of distress noted, with normal behaviors and affect noted. 3 o'clock p.m., the resident's nephew notified. He stated he was not aware of who the male visitor is and never heard of him, declined sending the resident to the emergency room for any assessment when asked. So again, that's where some of those lax issues come in. We have to be more vigilant. We have to. We've had shootings happen in nursing homes, stabbings happen in nursing homes. And again, it's because I understand you wanted to have people to be able to come in, but you have to think of it as protecting your residents too. And if it takes a special code to get into a gated community, why can't we do something to protect our residents a little bit better? So we need to think about this and be more forward thinking. All right, so let's get to this last article before we get to the good news article. And I wanted to bring this up because this is something we followed a while ago, and it's coming back again. And so this is coming out of Montreal from CBC. And it says nursing exam that failed hundreds is unreliable and lacks validity, reports finds. I find this is interesting. It says scores should be recalculated to get much needed nurses working, says commissioner. This is pretty damning evidence. It says an investigation by Quebec's Commissioner of Professions has concluded that there were major problems with the licensing exam for nurses last September that saw over half of nursing students fail. In the latest report released on Wednesday, Andre Guerfi, who oversees access to professional orders in Quebec, found issues with the validity and the reliability of the exam. The reliability level of the questions in the exam is pretty minimal, and for a high-stakes exam like this one, it should be much higher, he said. The report also concluded that the passing grade had been raised without justification. He said if the order had maintained their previous mark, more than 500 nursing students who failed would have passed. stated, quote, the justification for adding that markup is simply not there, not sufficient. Adding that a recalculation could allow nursing students who technically failed the exam to obtain their licenses. With a recalculation, if they succeeded, then issue the permit, and that's it. Let them work in the health system. We need them. Pardon me. Excuse me. The report calls for immediate modifications to the exam and investigation into the training of nursing students. The province's nurses order, known by its French acronym of OIIQ, said in a news release that it would take a few days to analyze the findings before offering a response. So there were, if you recall, we previously reported that there were complaints about the new nursing tests in Canada, and there were students who were actually suing because they said they didn't get the education that they wanted and they weren't passing. So just thought I'd bring that up and let you know there's more details that's coming out of this, and we'll be keeping an eye on what's happening with that. And so now for our nurse making a difference. We want to recognize, and by the way, and I didn't get a chance to say it, but happy Nurses Week to all the nurses out there, and happy Nurses Month to all my fellow nurses as well. But we are going to celebrate this nurse who marks 50 years of caring out of Winona. Her name is Angie Johannes. And it says, as a girl, Angie Johannes got frequent reminders of how powerful her mother's work was. People would flag her mom down, and Pero Tweety Overing at the grocery store saying, "Do you remember me? You delivered my baby. You delivered this one and this one and this one." They say all the kids lined up. It wasn't just a miracle of birth that impressed the former patients. They talked about how good she was and how she helped them manage their pain levels, Johannes recalled. She had a profound effect on a lot of patients. So when Overing was a girl herself, she was very much discouraged from ever pursuing that field. Excuse me. That proved to be her calling. As a B and C student, she said, the guidance counselor told me the best I could do, the absolute best, was to go to a tech college, but not a real college. That really bothered me because I thought I can do this. Fortunately, a priest at Cotter High School told her, Amparo, this man probably had good intentions, but he doesn't know you. You can do this. So, Bonnie Googans, who retired from 41 years of nursing this April, got to know Overing while she was still studying to become an RN. He says she was still working full-time nights and going to school and raising her family and doing a tremendous job at everything. I don't know where this woman gets her inner strength, but she still has it today. So she got her dream. She eventually went back to school to get her licensed practical nurse certification. She started off as a job as a nurse's aide. And she became an RN later. So she spent 36 years in labor and delivery before moving to urgent care for the past 12. And so in March, she celebrated 50 years in nursing. So I want to say congratulations to her for her 50 years of nursing. If you want to read more about her story, you can look her up on Google, and then I will be happy to post that link from the Winona Post for you to read her story. But I think this is phenomenal, and I want to say congratulations to her and a happy Nurses Week to you all. So that ends our news segment for today. I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget about our challenge this afternoon. It's coming up. I'm very excited about it. So this evening at 7 o'clock, join us for our challenge. It will be live streamed on our Facebook page and also on LinkedIn. So join us for our Nurses for the Kingdom challenge. And thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and share our content and subscribe. Bye for now.